Welcome to the Heart and Life Podcast, a podcast dedicated to encouraging, equipping, and edifying the people called Methodists in North Alabama and across the globe. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Heart and Life Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Rogers. Friends, today I'm excited to welcome Liz Bowlin to the podcast. Liz is the children's minister at Sheffield Methodist Church and is very involved with our conference's Children's Ministry Network and is part of the team putting together an upcoming children's ministry conference called Renew. I wanted to have Liz on to talk all things children's ministry and also to share about this upcoming conference, which if you are part of our conference and involved in children's ministry, I definitely hope you will check that out. Liz, it's great to have you on and welcome to the Heart and Life Podcast.
Thank you, Brandon. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Good deal. So before we dive in and talk about Renew, I'd love, what I like to do with the folks who come on the podcast is just give you a chance to tell a little bit about yourself. You can talk about your personal life. You can talk about your ministry. Just who is Liz Bowlin? And so we'll start there.
Well, I'm almost 60 and I'm still figuring that out. Who is Liz Bowlin? But I have been a public school teacher, a private school principal, a homeschool mom. My husband Bart is a pastor, Global Methodist elder. We have 5 biological children and another foster son. They're all grown and on their own now. And we have 2 dogs. And I've been in children's ministry for almost as long as my husband has been in pastoral ministry. And that's kind of how that happened. He was a pastor and a church needed a children's director, and there I was. So
I gotcha. Wow. So you clearly have a lot of experience and a big heart for children. That's pretty evident. Wow. Principal, teacher, foster parent, children's minister. You have kind of run the gamut there. Has that always just been a part of your life with children like that?
It has. In high school, I thought I wanted to be a nurse. And so I had a little part-time nursing assistant gig at the local hospital. And the first time a patient died that I had taken care of and that I knew their name, that was it. I knew I couldn't be a nurse anymore. And so the Myers-Briggs personality inventory that I did at Asbury when I went there said that my next career choice should be teacher. And I tried it out and I loved it. And I knew that middle school students were not the group I wanted to work with. So I assumed high school students wouldn't be either. But I just really I enjoy the kids until they get hormonal. And so I have pretty much stayed below the middle school line and always loved working with children. Thanks to the Myers-Briggs personality inventory for that.
Yeah, my wife taught middle school. She taught 8th grade English for about 15 years. And it does take a certain personality type to be able to work with middle schoolers, I think, and she certainly has it. That's not where she is now, but she did that for a long time, and they're a different breed.
It takes a definite special grace to work with the older kids, I think.
For sure. Well, so clearly you have a heart for kids, and that's awesome. With the work that children's ministry does is so vital to our church and so life-giving for our kids. And I can't speak highly enough about the work that you guys do. So you are the children's minister there at Sheffield. Tell us a little bit about Sheffield and about the children's ministry there.
Well, when we moved here in 2018, there was an interim children's director, And I really had kind of stepped aside. I had been in children's ministry since 1994 at many of the churches that my husband had served, and I had stopped doing that. I was just trying to be the best volunteer I could be in children's ministry. But the interim took a position at UNA and needed to give up that ministry. And so the SPRC came and asked me if I would be the interim until they found someone else. And like I said, that was 2019, and here we are in 2025, and I am still going strong for now. I see retirement in the future, but I don't think I will ever be quote unquote retired from children's ministry completely. I would like to dedicate some more time to what we do in on the conference level, but for now I'm juggling both Sheffield and the conference children's ministry network. Here at Sheffield, we've seen some growth since COVID. COVID uncovered some fault lines in all sorts of areas, and we went from about 30 children on a regular basis to about 10 after COVID.
Oh, wow.
And we're back up now. If they're all here on the same day, we've got about 28. And so growth is happening, and we're excited about that.
Praise God.
And loving being a global Methodist church.
Amen. That's awesome. You said that about it's funny the way ministry kind of keeps coming back to you. My own story in ministry began with the church where we were attending. The church we were a part of, they were going through a transition with youth ministry, and they were in the process of looking for a youth pastor. And so I went to some of the volunteers and said, hey, my daughter had just started in the youth, and I said, if y'all need any help during this transition, I can do whatever. And so that just during that transition has now ended up in me being an elder in the Global Methodist Church. So, it's I don't want to say it's a trap because that makes it sound negative, but it does have a way of pulling at your heart, and when you recognize God has given you gifts and graces, it's hard to say no to it. So I'm grateful for you and the ministry there at Sheffield, and I just know that you are a blessing to those kids, and it sounds it's exciting to hear about growth. We all love when new folks come in, and so that is awesome. Well, you mentioned I'll tell you what, before we get there, I'd like to talk a little bit more broadly about children's ministry as a whole, and just kind of get your thoughts on what you see are some of the bigger challenges that we face in children's ministry sort of as a whole.
Yeah, the biggest challenge that I hear from others and that I have experienced in the past, God has blessed Sheffield currently with volunteers, but getting other people to volunteer in children's ministry and even in youth ministry is always a challenge. A lot of folks feel like they just, don't want to work with kids, or their kids are too busy. So volunteers, having enough volunteers is always a challenge. But changing trends have become especially since COVID, become very challenging. Kids at school now do a lot of their work on a screen. They all have Chromebooks or some sort of tablet that they do their schooling on. And so digital integration is something that I struggle with as I age and technology gets ahead of me. It's difficult sometimes for me to engage the students on a level that really that they really will plug into. And then sometimes just being able to reach them on a multisensory level. Some of the boys are very busy and want their hands on things. The girls are more timid and want to sit, and they're auditory listeners. So just being sure that when I've got a room, a large group of 28 to 30 kids, I'm engaging all of those learning modalities at the same time. That's very challenging. But it can be done, and we learn as we go, and really I learn more from the students about how to reach them than I do from anybody else. Yeah. So, and I feel like children's ministry is, I don't know how to say it. It is the lifeblood of the church. If there are not noisy children in your pews, you might be on hospice as a church. Because the statistics show that about 75% of conversions happen before the age of 18. And our mission is to make disciples of Jesus Christ. And if 75% of disciples are being made before the age of 18, then our children's and youth ministries have to be vital and growing and alive in the denomination and in our individual churches, where our churches are going to struggle.
That's such a critical point, and I'm so glad you shared that, because you're absolutely right. If we're not pouring into our children and our youth, then pretty soon there won't be children and youth to pour into. So that's such an important part of the life of the church, and so I appreciate you bringing that up. Well, we've talked about some of the challenges, and there are challenges in every ministry, of course. But what about children's ministry brings you joy?
Oh, so seeing every teacher will tell you, seeing that light bulb go off. When you're teaching them to read in kindergarten or first grade, and they suddenly get it. But those are exciting moments. But when you're in a church setting and you're sharing, well, I did a lesson not too long ago on prevenient grace, and one of the little boys, his eyes lit up, and he said, "You mean God loved me even before I knew He was God?" And that statement, that's what I love about children's ministry. When they get it, when they wrap their little hearts and their little brains around what Christ has done for them. We have a group within our children's group that loves to go to the altar and pray. And on Sunday mornings after the worship service, when our pastor will open the altar for prayer, there are more children on their knees than there are adults most Sundays.
Wow.
And it brings me to tears every Sunday. With a big smile on my face, I get happy tears to see that they are willing to bow the knee and set an example for our adults.
That's so good. Wow, that gives me chills just thinking about that. That is wonderful, and you're setting them up because they are learning from an early age to go to God, to take it to Jesus, and that's something that they will carry with them as they get older. They'll always know that they can go to Jesus whenever they're struggling with whether it's something big or something small in their life, whatever it is, they can take that to Jesus. How powerful! So you talked, you mentioned this a little bit about working with the conference as a whole and working with children's ministry in the conference as a whole. Our conference has it's called the Children's Ministry Network. And so I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what that is. Maybe some folks are not as familiar with that, but maybe you could talk a little bit about what that is and what it does and just all thing Children's Ministry Network.
Okay, sure. So the Children's Ministry Network is a group of children's ministers. Some of them are full-time on staff at their church. Others are volunteer and others are part-time. Right now, there are only 6 serving on that team. I'm the facilitator of the Children's Ministry Network. And then we have Lori Baker representing the North District, Holly Wilson in the Southwest, Chad Talley in the Northwest, Melanie Schuler in the South Central District, and Heather Epperson in the Northeast. The Northeast District. We really ideally would love to have a representative from each district. So that if I could make a little commercial here, we still need representatives from the Central, the East Central, the Southeast, the East, the South, and the Midwest districts in our conference. And what we do really is just resource other churches. Each of the people on the team has been in children's ministry for a while. We're not experts on every issue. Some of us are a little better versed on outreach, some of us a little bit better. One of the ladies on this team is all about some social media and does a great job managing that part for us. We just all kind of bring our own strengths and weaknesses to the table and work together to do what we can to help other churches. Maybe other churches need to start a children's ministry or to grow a children's ministry. Maybe they just need some help looking at different curricula that are available. Maybe they want help with Vacation Bible School or Ministry Safe, which is our child protection policy. So anything that the churches need, that's what we're here to provide. And we can do that on a district level in our local districts, but we also work together on a conference level. And you and I think, will talk in a few minutes about Renew, but that is one of the things that we offer just for networking and growth. So we're just here to help grow children's ministry in the North Alabama Conference of the Global Methodist Church.
That's awesome. Yeah. So definitely, if you are listening to this podcast and you are involved in children's ministry, you need to check that out. What's the best way that folks can get connected with the Children's Ministry Network?
They can email me, and if you will share my email address wherever you post the podcast, I would love to hear from anybody who has questions. If they might want to join our team. If they would like a speaker to come and do some training with their volunteers, whatever they need, just reach out to me by email, and I'll be glad to get back with them and see what we can do to help.
That's great. We are a connectional system, and like you said, no one individual has all of the answers, but when we have folks who have different giftings and different skill sets come together, we really can do a better job of resourcing and equipping our individual churches to just do the best ministry that is possible, because we're all on the same team, and I think that's so vital to what we're doing as a conference is being able to support one another and resource one another and lift each other up. That's fantastic. So there are several spots that need to be filled. So if you are listening to this, get on that and help out. You may not think that you have anything to offer, but if you are involved in children's ministry, you've got something to offer.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah, that's great. So we mentioned the Renew conference, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. If you could kind of just sort of explain what the Renew conference is, and just kind of give us the rundown of what it's all about.
Yes. So, if I could start with a little history, years ago, in in 1994, my husband's third appointment, we were finally at a church that had a few children, and our oldest daughter was about 2 at the time. And so the children would get together, and the moms just kind of worked together within the church to provide a little programming for our own children. And I don't remember, it was sometime during that appointment, and we were there for 3 or 4 years. So, sometime in the late 1990s, I heard about the Children's Pastors Conference. I reached out to them to see if they had any scholarship money available for someone from a very small church to attend to learn more about children's ministry. So I was really beginning to dip my toes in at that point. They did, and they allowed me to come to Orlando. I attended this conference, and it was overwhelming. It was huge, thousands of people. Every vendor I had no idea even existed in the world of children's ministry was there. Fantastic speakers. That was my introduction to Mark Lowry. He was he was a comedian that spoke while I was there. But it really did make a difference for me to realize that children's ministry was vital in our local churches, and there are people doing it. And so I kind of hung on to the things I learned at that conference. But I also realized at that point that, our churches are not huge. And I don't just mean global Methodist churches. I read a statistic from, I think it was George Barna, that about 75% of all the churches in the United States are 100 members or less. And when that's the case, you don't have the funds or the time to send your children's director, children's minister, whatever title you use, to a huge conference far away in Orlando or wherever, long travel, expensive fees, plus, hotels and meals and all the things that go with that. So why can't we do that on a smaller scale? Why can't we bring those quality speakers and ministry partners to our people locally? And so I'd say 10, 12 years ago, God really put that on my heart, and we started that working on something called Contagious in the United Methodist Church in North Alabama several years ago. And when we transitioned to the Global Methodist Church, I knew that I wanted to help churches in the GMC to grow their children's ministry without the burden of long travel, expensive fees, all of those things. So as a network, we work together, those 6 names that I mentioned earlier, and we decided to bring that kind of conference to our area. And so Renew is a children's pastors conference. But if you are a volunteer teaching Sunday school, you're a children's pastor. If you are the full-time paid director of the whole ministry at your church with 1,000 members, you are a children's pastor. And so anyone working with children in a ministry setting is invited to join us on February 22nd for Renew. We have invited a Holy Spirit-filled man to be one of our keynote speakers. Alan Beasley, our conference superintendent, will be a keynote speaker. And then we have also invited a name in children's ministry. She's written a lot of books and has a website. She's the founder of Child's Heart. Her name is Esther Moreno, and so she will be one of our keynote speakers, and she is also spirit-filled and just has some powerful things to share about children's ministry specifically. But we just wanted to make it affordable. We wanted to make it local. And we wanted to invite for a day anybody who works with children. And, we're not strictly global Methodists as far as this conference is concerned. Obviously, our theological position will be Wesleyan. But the methods that we use in children's ministry and the programming that we do is not denominationally specific. So even if you are not part of a global Methodist church, you're welcome to join us and share your gifts with us. We'd love to hear from you as well. And then we also have several breakout speakers planned. Would you like me to share about those as well?
Oh, yes, please do.
Okay. So our keynote speakers are Alan Beasley and Esther Moreno. Our breakout speakers, during the day, there are 3 opportunities for breakouts and 6 choices during each session. Larry Hillman started working with children when he was 17, and he has been a children's pastor with attendance from 5 kids to as many as 100. He's coming from Orlando and will be doing some breakouts on how to recruit, train, and retrain volunteers, how to manage some crowd control. He'll do one on discipline. And we're real excited to hear from Larry. Ben Birdsong is one of our own from North Alabama, and he'll be sharing 3 different breakout sessions engaging your kids in local and global ministries, global missions, family discipleship, and then understanding generational differences and ministering to Gen Alpha. And if I might pause right here and mention, children's ministry is family ministry.
Amen.
You really can't minister to the children without including their families. And so what Ben has to share in his breakout B about family discipleship will be key for a lot of our participants. Our keynote speaker, Esther Moreno, will also offer a couple breakouts. She'll do one called Understanding the Times, and then Secrets of Effective Teaching. All of these breakouts and descriptions of these can be found on our Facebook page, but they're also will be available on site that day, so that folks can pre-register or they can walk in and attend. Kim and Woody Wooden are going to do 3 breakouts for us. Woody is a pastor in the Global Methodist Church in North Alabama, and they have a great ministry to special needs kids at Sumatonga. They do a special needs camp. And so he's going to share with us about ministering to at-risk children. The special needs ministry, he calls it the invisible community. And then also recommended documentation for ministry to at-risk kids. This is another area, as more and more children are diagnosed with neurodivergence or what used to be called autism, we need to adapt our ministries to be able to reach these children. And so Kim and Woody are going to help us do that. Mike Arnold is actually a tween ministry guru. He is currently on staff at, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. But he is St. John's Evangelical Protestant Church. So he is not a global Methodist, but he's going to share with us about the ABCs of tween ministry and how to do tween ministry on a shoestring budget. And Mike has been doing tween ministry for decades, so he has a lot to bring to the table there. And then Skip Bonder, coming from Panama City, is going to do 3 breakouts, one about outrageous outreach, one about fundraising, and then another one about evangelism with children. So we've got quite a few quality speakers on the docket for the day, and I just am so excited about how God really put this schedule together this year. Some of these speakers actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, I heard this was a possibility. I would love to be a part of it." And that I just felt like, that was a gift from God. So we welcome them and look forward to having them. Another gift from God is Compassion International. So Matt Wilson of Compassion International reached out to me and said, how can we partner with Renew? And Compassion will be sponsoring our lunches for the day. So the box lunches are included in the cost of the event, and those are going to be provided by Compassion. And then we have several other ministry partners that will be there to display, to share books, to share ideas. Revolt Ministries, Compassion, as I mentioned, Brave Parenting, a really awesome ministry, Brave Parenting, about screen time and how to protect your children from what's out there on the internet, how to get involved to be sure that your schools are protecting children. So I'm really excited about Brave Parenting being with us. First Priority Global will be on site, and then we'll also have somebody at a Ministry Safe booth that can answer any questions that our churches have about their Ministry Safe accounts or how to keep children safe in a ministry setting. So we have a lot to offer that day. It's February 22nd. The doors open at 8. We will start at 9 and be finished about 3. Lunch is provided. Like I said, just a slew of speakers and breakout sessions to choose from, plus networking. We've built into the schedule some time for networking and visiting at those ministry booths. So I hope that folks will join us and take advantage of this opportunity to do something close to home and meet with some other children's ministers in our conference.
Wow, Liz, that is going to be a packed day. That's so great though. All of those topics that you talked about in those breakout sessions are so important, and it really address vital pieces of children's ministry, and I'm grateful to you guys for putting this together. Recruiting I mean, you talked about how the challenges of recruiting volunteers, and you talked about the importance of really ministering to the whole family, and I'm touched by this the special needs. I think that's fantastic. I mean, all of these different. I mean, these things could be they could be big sessions all on their own, and to be able to get all of that together in one day, that is fantastic. And of course, the work that Compassion does, we all we all are familiar with that, and grateful for them. And wow, just what a great opportunity to come and learn and grow and network. And I really hope a lot of our folks in North Alabama will take advantage of this. You may have said this already, and I may have missed it, but where is the conference actually being held?
Oh, that's a very good question. I don't think I did mention that. We are meeting this year at Christ Church in Birmingham.
Very good. Very good. That is sort of the Hoover-ish area. Is that right?
I think so. I am geographically challenged, so I know that it's in a suburb of Birmingham. Last year we were in Athens, which is in North Alabama. Birmingham is a little bit more central, and we may be even somewhere else next year. But this year we are at Christ Church, Birmingham, February 22nd. And if I could add, Brandon, I think I kind of mentioned, but I want to reiterate. In order to have lunch provided, they need to get registered by February 18th. And the conference website has a link to children's ministry, and on that tab you can find the registration link. In order for lunch to be provided, we will order a couple extra lunches, but may not have exactly what you want. We may run out. So be sure to register by the 18th. However, if you don't get registered by the 18th, come on and join us anyway. We will take walk-ins that day. That's not a problem at all. We just might not be able to give you the lunch that you wanted to have. So join us right up until 9 o'clock on the 22nd. Walk in, and we'd love to have you.
Gotcha. Very good. Yeah, Christ Church is close to Spain Park High School there, if you're familiar with that area. And a lot of our folks, a lot of our listeners we went to a conference there this past year that they hosted on sort of the revitalization of Methodism. I can't remember what the name of that conference was called, but it was very good. I just can't remember the name of the conference. But
it was very good. I was there as well, and now I'm trying to remember the name of that. Matt O'Reilly even put a book together from each of the talks that were delivered that day, and I can't think of it either, Brandon.
Yeah, drawing a blank on that. But at any rate, Renew is going to be it's going to be a great resource for everybody who works with children, and I hope that everybody will check that out. So you mentioned this is not the first time you guys have done this conference. So this is a yearly event. Is that right?
We would like for it to be an annual event.
Okay.
Last year was the first time. Now, initially, as a United Methodist conference, we did a few events similar to this with a different name, but that has not happened in probably 10 years. And so we brought it back to the Global Methodist Church, and last year was the first year, and I think at this point we will plan for it to be an annual event as long as it's providing some needed networking and education and empowering of our children's minister. If the time runs out and it's not needed anymore, then we can change gears. But we are looking at it being an annual event. We also started something last year that we would like to keep doing. In each of our districts, we would love to have just kind of a quarterly networking event. So last year in the fall, because we did not have a representative from each district, we did more a gathering in each corner of our conference. So we called it Gather and Grow, and it was just a few hours of getting together with other children's ministers within our district and talking about what practices I'm using, what curriculum I'm using, just sharing ideas. And it was really encouraging for me. I loved hearing from some of the other folks who were working with children and just sitting down at the table having a cup of coffee together. So we'd like to continue doing Gather and Grow, and you'll hear more about that in the future. But again, we need some more representatives from each district to come on board and help us in the Children's Ministry Network so we can make that happen.
That is so good, and I would guess that there are probably folks out there who work in children's ministry in their local church, and maybe they feel like they're in a little bit of a silo. Maybe they don't feel as connected, and this is a great way to get connected and to find those resources. And like you said, just hear what other people are doing. That can be inspirational. It can spark ideas. It can give you an opportunity to realize, hey, I'm not in this alone. There are lots of people out there who are doing this, and they're facing the same struggles and challenges and experiencing the same joys. And just a great way to connect and really to help grow. And I love that. I love the idea of having a place and a time. I know for those of us who are pastors, we try to do these things too. And every ministry area needs that place where you can connect with your peers and just know that you're in it together. It can be such a powerful thing.
Yes. One of the most powerful things we did that day at Gather and Grow was just to pray for each other, and being able to lay eyes on somebody else who's doing what you're doing, and then pray over that ministry and have somebody else lay hands on you and pray for you. We definitely want to do more of that.
Very good. I love that. All right, so Renew is coming up February 22nd. Go on to the conference website and get registered for that, so you can be sure and have your lunch provided. It will go from about 9 to 3 on February 22nd there at Christ Church in Birmingham. And really, whether you are a volunteer, whether you are a paid staff person, whatever your role is in children's ministry, I believe you will be enriched and encouraged and strengthened in your ministry through this conference. Encourage everybody to get out and be there if you can. Liz, one of the things that I like to do as we kind of wrap up our conversation, it's always interesting to me to hear how God is moving in our lives and speaking to us through worship. So one of the things I like to do is ask all of my guests this question. Is there a hymn or a worship song that is a favorite for you, or one that is particularly speaking into your life in this season of ministry?
I remember when we got married, my husband and I got married. He graduated from seminary one Saturday. We got married the next Saturday, and the next Saturday we were at annual conference, and he was being appointed to his first church. And Michael W. Smith had come out with a song about that time called "Looking for My Place in This World." And I went from being a fifth grade teacher in Kentucky to being a pastor's wife in Alabama, and that was like my life song for the year, was looking for my place in this world. I remember listening to that song and thinking, "Oh, that is so me, Lord. What is my place in this world?" But as the years have gone on, and we've been married now for 30-something years, don't tell him I didn't know exactly how many, the song that always swells my heart, and I almost can't sing through the whole thing without tears, is "When I Survey the Wondrous Cross." There's a choral arrangement by Gilbert Martin that the Asbury Concert Choir did when I was at Asbury. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the same arrangement that was sung at General Conference in Costa Rica this year. And it's just, I can't describe the place that it lifts me to every time I hear it, and every time I think, when I survey His wondrous cross. And the words of the song are my heart. So I would say that I may not have exactly found my place in this world, other than just following Jesus. You know, if he turns left, I'm going to turn left. If he turns right, I'm going to turn right. But while I'm trudging along, following Him, my life song is "When I Survey."
Amen. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Well, friends, that's just about going to do it for us today on the Heart and Life podcast. What a great conversation. I want to thank Liz Bowlin for taking time to be with us today. We'll be sure to include links on our show notes page on Facebook to all of the stuff we talked about today, from the Children's Ministry Network to the Renew Conference. And we'll also put a plug in for Sheffield Methodist. If you're up in that area and looking for a place for your kids to learn and grow and be a part of something, go check them out as well. As we wrap up today, I want to offer this word of encouragement. When we baptize children into the church, we all make a promise to them and to their parents that we will help to nurture them in the faith as they grow. This is a sacred responsibility and a great joy to get to come alongside parents in raising their children in the faith. So whether you serve in a church where there is one child or 500, may we do all that we can to pour into the children in our congregations, helping them to learn and grow in Jesus every day. Thank you again for joining us today on the Heart and Life podcast. God bless. Well, that's about all the time we have today on the Heart and Life podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our conversation, but even more, we hope that something in it brought you hope, inspiration, or maybe taught you something new. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, follow, subscribe, and share our podcast on your podcast platform of choice. Music for today's episode is Genoa by 50 Sounds.